Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee, the podcast on the business of video production.
Creatives Grab Coffee is hosted by Dario and Nouri and Kyrill Lazarov from Lapse Productions. Our goal is to share knowledge and experiences from video production professionals around the world. Whether you're a freelancer looking to start your own business or a seasoned business owner aiming to scale your company, this is the show for you.
Join us as we develop a community of like-minded creatives looking to learn and help each other grow. Welcome to the business of video production. Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee.
Before we get started with the show, let's go over today's sponsors.
Do you have a shoot in Toronto? Do you need crew or a strong production partner to help you with your project? Lapse Productions is one of the top production companies in Toronto and your go-to video partner.
With our strong creative skills and extensive network, we can help you achieve your goal. Lapse Productions is able to offer you production services, white label services, or finder fees for project handoffs.
Reach out to us on our website at lapseproductions.com to learn more.
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Creatives Grab Coffee is on Patreon. Help support the show by becoming a patron via the link in the description and get exclusive access to
full uncut episodes, all reels and highlights at episode release, live shows and call-ins, ability to request cities and guests, and updates plus BTS content. Join now via the link in the description to get access to all the knowledge our guests have to offer. And now, let's begin the show. And take 3 of Creatives Grab Coffee, episode 50. Let's go.
Why is it take 3, Kyrill?
Oh my God. The funny thing is the first 2 recordings, I feel like were more of a bit of a therapy session for us. You know, I feel like anyone in business probably goes through the same thing where you have things in your head, you just kind of, you haven't had a chance to get off your chest. And that's kind of what we used episode 50 as a means to release what we've been holding up for a while. And then we just realized, you know what, we need to give a little bit more structure to this. And,
it was too much of a rant.
It was a lot of ranting.
You sent me the rough draft of the episode. I was listening to it, and I was listening to the short one because now we're doing 2 different recordings. We're doing the full uncut for the Patreon listeners and the shorter one, bite-sized one for the public listeners. And I gotta say, listening to that, I was like, this episode can never see the light of day. We gotta hide this in a vault.
Well, now that we've done this recording a few times, remember, people don't know what's going on. We haven't announced anything yet. And firstly, we're finally on Patreon. That is one little announcement right there. And with that, there's going to be some changes to how we kind of go forward with the show and the format. And as you mentioned, one thing we're going to be doing is putting the full episodes on our Patreon and then releasing shorter, maybe 20 to 30 minute summary versions of some of the key topics for public. And this way, for those who want to know a little bit more about our guests or some of the topics we discussed, you're more than welcome to join Patreon and check it out.
They already saw the intro part of the episode. We already gave them our little spiel. Basically, we just need help. We're trying to monetize this podcast because there's costs involved, and we want to make sure that we enjoy doing this, but we do want to pump it out a bit more often. And I'm sure the listeners are enjoying it too, because there's a lot of knowledge that's being spread around from our guests and whatnot. And if you guys want to hear more episodes, we gotta find some money for it because it takes time. Like Kyrill and I gotta take time out of our schedule to outreach to new people. Like vet them. I always try to bring on people that are good. If they're not good, I just don't invite them to the actual call. Like, because we don't want to bring someone who's a dud, right? And then, Kyrill's got to do the editing. That takes a lot of time out of the work that he should be doing for Lapse. So, the time is money. We need some money to run this thing. You guys want more episodes? This is the trade-off, all right? It is what it is.
Here's a little sneak peek into the kind of rambling that we ended up doing on the other recording.
No, that rambling was like, I don't even know if we should go. Like, it was... I don't know. I'm pretty sure our enemies, whoever they may be, would have used it against us at some point.
But aside from that, one thing we also want to announce is that we finally got our first sponsor for the show, Canada Film Equipment. And as you probably have seen in our intro video, they are the first of many more sponsors to come that we have in the works. And if you are interested in sponsoring the show, feel free to reach out to us and see how we can collaborate in some way. We have a few others.
If you're a coffee roaster, by some miracle listening to this, we need a coffee roaster. So please reach out.
You can't have creatives grab coffee without coffee. Or in Dario's, sometimes based on what he's feeling, the tea world, when he makes his monthly switch back and forth from coffee to tea and tea to coffee.
If you're a coffee roaster, please get in touch. I reached out to a lot of the good ones here in Toronto. I don't know, I guess they don't check their emails or whatnot, but coffee roasters, please reach out. If not, I'm going to start reaching out to some other people.
Yeah, it all depends on what opportunities present themselves. But anyway, so that's that. That's the Patreon and the sponsorships out of the way. So Dario, where are we at right now with Lapse and us as a business, aside from Creatives Grab Coffee? Where are we at right now? Let's do this as like a little bit of a chance to check in.
Where we at right now, we're just what's the term? Trudging along. We're just treading along, month to month. Work is slow as hell because of the interest rate hikes. Those things are brutal. Yeah. That's it. I'm pretty sure a lot of other people are in the same situation. We got a trickling of leads coming in compared to the waterfall that was the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Nothing. We got some more keeping us alive, but next year I hope they cut those interest rates down. Otherwise, we're in deep trouble.
Yeah, it's interesting. I talked to a few other people that are also like freelancing just to ask them from their perspective what it's like in the industry right now. And even from them, they're saying, yeah, for some reason, September itself is really slow, which has never been historically like that over the last like five or so years, because September is usually around the time where a lot of corporations and companies, their fiscal years end. So this is around the time when they're trying to be spending money. Even during the pandemic, everyone was still trying to do work in September.
Everyone's cutting costs, So what do you think is the first thing that's going to get cut? It's video.
Yeah,
it's always like that. The first thing that will get cut.
We're always the first. Always the first.
Government wanted people to cut excess spending. Well, if a company's trying to sell products and people ain't buying it because they can't afford to do it, well, that's kind of, we get affected too,
Yeah, it's funny though.
The end result.
I always find it funny when video is the first one cut, when it's also one of the most important means of communication from business to business and business to consumer, which is almost like a bit of an irony when you think about it, right? I wonder why that is.
Because it's more expensive than photos.
But it's also one of the more needed mediums, right?
Right, but if you had to choose between photo and video, video is a more expensive one, so video will get cut. You could still kind of do it with photos.
Yeah, because sometimes companies, all they really need is something. They don't necessarily need video for what they're doing. It all depends also on the business you're in. If you're in a very B2B type business, then video definitely will be one of the first things to cut, because it's not a major need of investment for.
Or you just reuse the same video content. You don't update it.
Yeah, which a lot of companies historically have done.
Historically they don't update it. If it's B2B, that video is evergreen, most likely. So just keep using it until you wait out the interest rate hikes, and then then you can start updating stuff.
We've had some leads come through the front door. It's like, yeah, we want to do a video and update this, and we see the first video and it's from like 20 years ago. It's like, there you go, right there. They had one video, cost a lot at the time, probably even more so back then compared to now, and they just were afraid to go back and update it since then.
But that was before. That was in the good times. That was when.
Before
crypto
the
was at an all-time.
Before the empire.
That was back when crypto was at an all-time high. That's when that was happening.
Oh,
people had money to burn. Those were good times.
But anyways, overall, like, things have been a little bit slower, but on our front at Lapse Productions, it's actually been one of our best years as of yet, which is nice to know. But it's funny because when it's during these slow times, it never feels like it. But when you look at the numbers, it's like, oh, okay, we actually are doing pretty well. But right now, it's a matter of us just trying to kind of focus on a bit more of the marketing, focusing more on creating blog content, focusing on the expansion of Creatives Grab Coffee, because this has actually been one of our best tools for creating new connections, new networks and things like that, and has really yielded a lot of benefits for us that we didn't expect, right? And one of my favorite benefits is the fact that if we need to work in other cities, either whether it's in Canada or in the States, it allows us to, or Australia, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. We've been able to expand not only across Canada, but to several states in the US, the UK, as well as Australia. And one thing we did earlier this year, one of our clients needed a work shot in Seattle and in North Carolina. So as a result, we reached out to a few production companies in those cities and
London.
Brought them
onto
the
London.
show. Oh yeah, and London. Exactly. And in London, we interviewed those production companies, got to know them really well, we really clicked and vibed. And as a result, when we went down to execute those projects, we just hired them. And it's honestly become a really good means of, building bigger and better networks as a result. So this is a big focus for us now. And this is why we've also monetized a little bit, because we also want to be able to start doing this on a more weekly basis, because we've tried in the past and it gets difficult, but we want to make that commitment to try to release almost on a weekly schedule going forward.
Yeah. And as an added benefit of being a Patreon member, you get to request specific cities. So let's say you have a shoot in, I don't know, Paris, France, for example. I just threw something way out there. But let's say, for example, let's say Paris, France. You got a shoot in there and you don't know anyone. Well, you can request that we find a guest from that city. So it's almost like we're vetting the people for you. It really just helps us narrow down who to reach out to next, because like when I'm doing the outreach, I kind of just scratch my head and go, what movie have I watched recently? Oh, Good Will Hunting. Okay, I'll reach out to people in Boston. So next week I got a guest from Boston.
Boston, I suggested to you because I'm going to Boston next week as well.
Oh, is that what?
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to Boston. Why don't we reach out to Boston?
Well, anyways, I did watch Good Will Hunting too. So
there you go.
That's part of the reason.
So yeah, lots of things to come, both on the business side and also on for Creatives Grab Coffee. In terms of next steps, Dario, what we talked with our guests about a lot of interesting topics over this past season. I guess like the last 15, 20 episodes or so.
Before we get into that, I want to leave that for last, because that's just a rehash. And if people, I'm pretty sure people that listen to this show have been listening for at least a couple of episodes or whatever, because it's all pretty interesting stuff, unless they're new listeners.
Yeah, that's for the new listeners, essentially. That's what.
Yeah,
that's what this
is. If you want, you can also go to those specific episodes, which will be the last 10. I'd rather introduce a new topic, and then towards the end we can kind of go back and revisit some older topics. I want to talk about what we were discussing in the previous two tries of recording episode 50, falling out of love with the business. I want to talk about that, because we did touch on it, and it was like we were trying to form the topic in these two other episodes. So I want to go into that today.
Well, the thing is, a lot of businesses probably experience that in one way or another. You can't be in love with the business 100% of the time, all the time, right? I mean, when you think about also the kind of work you do in video production, when you first jump into it, you jump into it to create video content and things like that. But when you start running it as a business, you're more of a business owner at that point than a creator. Like 80% of the work you do at that point is business development, business growth, and outreach and stuff like that. And maybe only 20% of the time is actually more of the creative stuff. So I feel like that is one reason that can explain as to why a lot of people can fall out of love with their business in a way.
That's one of them. I think
that's one of them.
I think that was your take.
That was more so my take. Yeah. Everyone has a different way, a different means of how that happens. For me, it's more so that where more of the focus has been on business side of things rather than on the creative. And,
that's why I've started to let you focus more on the creative side, because I prefer the business side. So that's how we split that up. So now like he handles a lot of the creative stuff. I'm more interested on the business side of it. So I'll even like loop him in. It's like, all right, now I'm handing it off to you. You fucking go along with this.
Go, have fun.
Have fun.
This was actually one of the topics we discussed with on one of the previous episodes. How in any business you have to essentially divide up roles. You can't have one person doing everything or two people doing everything, right? Some people have to have certain.
Who was the guest that said you can't have the creative people talk to the client? Who was that?
I don't remember that one, but like the thing that I'm specifically referring to here was this was definitely discussed with Adam from Digital Spark Studios. He was talking about how you have to recognize your strengths and define and divide responsibilities when you're sharing a business with someone, right? That was one topic we discussed with them, but I do know which one you mean. I think that might have been, who was that? Was it?
I think it was Mileshko.
Ryan from. No. It wasn't Mileshko, because I only remember that because that was our most recent guest, and I remember distinctly that wasn't.
Kyrill edits these episodes, so he probably knows better than me. I just remember like the conversations on the day of, and that's it. But like I remember someone was talking about that, how like the creative people are just like they gotta just talk to other creative people, because they're like in their own world, and when they mix it with like the business people, that's when like friction start. That's what I remember.
Well, it's because it's a matter of like, one, it's different skill sets and kind of what you're focusing on, right? Like what might be an objection from a client to a creative, the creative might be like, why do we have to do that? But the creative might not understand that there are other factors at play behind the scenes, right? So for example, if a client communicates saying, hey, we have to remove this format for this video and then do it like this instead, the creative would be like, but this looks terrible. Like, well, why are we going to do it like this? You know, and then
the creative is emotional.
Yeah, the creative will be like, but this is going to be bad. It's not going to be good. And they'll start listing out things in a way that maybe the client won't interpret it as well. Whereas the business side knows how to kind of communicate that in a way that might be, I guess, not non-threateningly, I guess is maybe not the right word, but in a way that is beneficial to the client. It's like, look, if you want to be able to achieve this, we can't do that. We have to do it like this. Don't get me wrong. Some creatives can talk a little bit better to clients than most, but most creatives, not
creative people are emotional. That's why they're good at what they do. They're in touch with their emotions and whatnot. But when you're dealing with business people are not too emotional about things. They just want to do the business. So it doesn't mix well. It's like Michael Corleone said, it's nothing personal. It's just business.
Yeah. So that
was your side.
That was my side. So what was more so? Tell our listener what your side was.
My whole thing was, I guess my thing was that I kind of became disillusioned with the business, but I don't want to give off the wrong impression. Essentially what happened with me was that, I guess I would say maybe in this year or starting last year, I became more in touch with my entrepreneurial side. And I guess I was under the impression that this business I could have turned into like a huge moneymaker for myself and you as well. I haven't forgotten about you, Kyrill. You're part of the team.
Yeah. After 10 years, I would hope so, right?
I was under the impression that we could actually turn this into like a vehicle that could make us life-changing money, right? And then I met these people that are in the e-commerce space, and the product they're selling and the money they're making, I came to realize what we're doing essentially is still just labor. And even then, it's still capped labor. So we're running a business where I mean, it's not going to make a ton of money. I mean, for a regular person, yeah, it's a ton of money, but it's not going to be that life-changing money. And I think even production companies that are very successful pale in comparison to someone that's running a product-based business, right?
Because it's not as
even
scalable.
At the height. Well, it's not. The problem is, again, it's not scalable because we're managing a lot. It's not easily scalable because we're managing a lot of. You're managing people, and specifically people with talent, which is even harder, right? Because you have to. It's hard to find those people and whatnot. And I guess even as if you scale this up close to the cap, the overhead costs will still be insanely high. And I'm sure there's companies out there that have grown the production companies to be pretty big, and they're doing very well. But I guess my definition of very well changed after talking to some more people in the e-commerce space, to the point where I was like, oh, okay. So for a couple weeks, I'd say about a couple weeks, I was kind of like, it was in the back of my mind. It was gnawing at me. And I think, yeah, it made me disillusioned with it because I thought, I'm not going to work for someone else. I'm going to work for myself, and it's going to become this big, big business and yada, yada. Again, I like the creativity of it and all, but I do like the business side a lot more too. But when I broke it down, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. It's still, as a business idea, it's small. And even at its biggest, it'll still be considered small, right? Don't get me wrong. I love what we do. I really enjoy video production work, especially in the corporate space. But it was just something about that really disillusioned me. And then just recently, I came to terms with it, and the way I came to terms with it, I guess, is that I'm just seeing it as another income stream, like one of many. I guess that was the main differentiating thing for me, was that I was seeing this as one income, with the one and only income stream, the be all end all. And now I'm just seeing it as one of many that I will do over the course of my career. That's what really, that was my whole, mind shift on this matter. And I guess the love for it that I had before that is still there, but it's not the same. It's like if you have one child, you love that child. But if you have 3 kids, you still love all of them, right? But it's 3 kids. You got three different kids, right? That's kind of how I'm seeing it.
Yeah. You're basically splitting more of your you want to be able to try different things rather than one. Like before, we used to think that this business would be the only business we ever do. And I think that's a realization, is that it shouldn't be viewed as such. It should be viewed as one business of potentially other ones that we want to do, because I think,
you don't have to view it like that. Yeah. Like if you're running your production company and it's doing great, fantastic, keep it up. I guess this is what happened to me. I don't know if there's other people out there in the space that have had the same realization or feelings, but this is basically me just talking about what happened to me over the last 2 months, and in terms of like how my feelings changed towards the production business. You don't have to do this. This is not up to I'm not saying you guys got to start thinking like this. It's just something that happened to me.
Yeah, every business owner, every person in this industry is different, and they have different goals and desires of like what they want to do. Essentially, you have to figure out what you're getting into this business for. And I think what Dario was saying was that he wanted to see it as a potential to see how much he can scale and grow it. But then the realization of how there are certain caps as to how far you can grow and the challenges that comes with it. Like if you make an extra $50,000 in sales on a product business, great. You just made a very distinct profit based on what you're selling. If you make an extra $50,000 in sales for video production, one of the biggest things is like, now we got to figure out where we can bring the talent. Do we have to expand? Do we have to grow? This and that. There's a lot of challenges that come with it that almost you might up making as a business the same amount of profit at the end of the day with those other sales. I remember we were talking with Rupert from Perspective Pictures. He was talking about how when you're scaling this service-based industry or video production business, once you hit a certain number of people, then you have to aggressively grow in the types of people and the way you structure your business. So before, he was like mentioning that he would be basically managing a team of like 7 to 8 people when it was that small. But once they hit like 10 people, that's when they had to bring in middle management, and that completely changed the shape of the business, right? So it's like, sure, you're growing and expanding, but it's like when you start looking at it from the business perspective, what are those profit margins looking like at the end of the day? Will the same profit margin be there with like a 3-person team versus a 10-person team versus a 20-person team based on the sales? Like that it's interesting. It's interesting how this industry, how
I mean, like, look, when you're selling a product-based business, or when you're running a product-based business, you're going to have the same stuff. You got to bring in middle management and all that. But the only difference is with products, the numbers are just bigger because your margins are different, right? That's the only difference. So, like, I don't know what kind of numbers Rupert's running, but if he was running a product-based business, I guarantee you the numbers would be like, there'd probably be several more digits added to the end of that figure.
Of course.
That's all I'm trying to say. Like, the thing is, like, the thing that I realized is that, you know, we're running a business where really, if we're not there, it's doomed. And I think, yeah, you could get it to the point where you just step back, but then at that point you'd have to become like publicly traded or, you know, privately traded, but you'd still need outside investment for it, right?
Yeah.
Like these other businesses, you could take a easy step back. I guess you could even with video production, but I guess it's, again, the numbers are not really there. Like I'm trying to think, like, people we've spoken to, it's like the ones that are doing really well, it's like several million, whatever, maybe 5 million gross, bigger, maybe more than that. But when you talk about products, it's so the numbers are just ridiculously higher. At a smaller scale of overhead too, right? Like in terms of running the team can be smaller too, but the numbers they're running are just so much higher. Like the scalability with video production companies just is not there. It's very difficult. I think about some of the top ones in Toronto. Their teams are not that big. They're very small company. I can't imagine if their team was bigger, it'd be more like, I can't imagine the amount of stress that would be added to the owner of that company by, like, you know, increasing the team and all that. Like, it'd be intense. And it's like, for what? Like, if I was going to take that risk on, I'd expect like a big salary.
Do you have a shoot in Toronto? Do you need crew or a strong production partner to help you with your project? Lapse Productions is one of the top production companies in Toronto and your go-to video partner.
With our strong creative skills and extensive network, we can help you achieve your goal. Lapse Productions is able to offer you production services, white label services, or finder fees for project handoffs.
Reach out to us on our website at lapseproductions.com to learn more.
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group band packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Okay, guys, this is future Dario and future Kyrill chiming in again. Because we were talking about this after the show on the phone. This is something I was trying to say that I guess I didn't say properly. We wait for the camera to focus on me. Okay, I was trying to say this. I think I feel like I was rambling. We'll see what Kyrill says after he starts editing it. But this is what I was trying to say. We're in a business where, let's say you get an influx of... This is going back to the topic of, you know, like, I feel like the scalability of our business is limited, and hence the amount of money you can make in it is very limited. And I think a lot of people don't realize that going into it, or they become, you know, they just don't realize it, right? This is where my disillusionment kind of stems from. It's the fact that, like, let's say you get an influx of 20 clients coming in this month, and they all need video work and whatnot at once, right? You couldn't scale your business up to achieve that effectively if you wanted to. Like, where on earth are you going to find all the talent and the crew needed for that.
Okay, like, just let me add a preface here, is that this is relative to us, is what we're saying. Is like, so even if, like, say you're a team of like 20 people, if you're normally taking in only 20 clients per month, and all of a sudden 100 clients come to you at once, you're not going to be able to service them like that.
Yeah, we're exaggerating the numbers here, but just think of it relative to yourself. Yeah, like imagine you do whatever, 10 clients, 10 gigs a month. All of a sudden you have 40 coming in this month. You have to turn work away, right? Versus if you're running a product-based business, you just up the numbers and you achieve it, and that's it. But for us, it's like you can't bring in enough talented people to achieve that. And also the time
at least not in that short time.
Yeah, not in that short time. You'd need a lot more time, also because the way the business, the way the videos are created, anyways, you can't do it like that. And even if you wanted to, it would be a disaster unless you're a magician. But that's what I was trying to say, is that our scalability is so capped. Even if you had the influx of work coming in, I can't tell you how many guests we've had on the show that have referred work to us because they were at full capacity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? But here's actually a funny thing. Now that we're talking about this, and it just reminded me, that was actually something that Rupert accounted for with his business. He was talking about how the way he would scale in that sense and try to anticipate. See, the thing is, for him, it was more so anticipation. So that's why it kind of worked for him, where he would hire in the downtime so that when the busy times do come around, then they would have the people.
Yeah, but that's a big to do it. That's a big risk. You're basically trying to like time. Yeah. He's trying to time the market, and we all know how well that works, right? So what if he was wrong? Then straightforward. Yeah, but if he's wrong, then what? Now he's got to let people go, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you got to sign.
That actually happened with a lot of. That happened with a lot of people that we know in our industry here in Toronto, where people scaled up during the pandemic because they saw an influx of work in certain areas. But then when that work went away, they had to start downsizing again, right? So that's the unfortunate thing about the business, as we mentioned, is that if you get a huge influx of work, it's going to be very hard to scale up. And then when that work goes away, then you have to scale back down because you will not survive as a business otherwise. And that is unfortunately the biggest challenge in video production. Once you scale up, if the work isn't coming in, then you have, but this is like in any business though as well when you think about it, right? If the sales aren't coming in, you have to then scale down. Maybe it's not that unique to our industry, but the problem is we're more susceptible because we're dealing with people, and it's mostly service-based compared to product-based businesses, essentially.
Again, we need to, whenever we bring people on, their skill level needs to be very high.
Yeah.
So right away, you're dealing with a small group of people, which means the amount of work you can intake is very small. Just how it is.
Talent, I would say that's like the talent shortage. I think that was like an issue that the tech sector was having for a few years as well. I think this happens in a lot of industries where talent is such a key part of what the work is. And if there's a lot of work coming in and not enough talent to go around, everyone's going to be fighting for the same people. So you can't, I remember like even we've had similar situations where some creatives we've worked with in the past where we brought them on for some projects, but then they became so in high demand with other production companies that one, they weren't as available to take on projects anymore, but two, they got so busy to the point where sometimes even the quality of the work sometimes suffered. And then three, it's like at that point, because you know that they're that busy and they're not always going to be available as a business, you have to make the conscious decision where you can't pitch going forward relying on that person maybe once in a while to bring them in, but that person won't be someone that you could bring in consistently. But that's how it is on the freelance side. If you're hiring contractors, if you're hiring full-timers, that's a bit more of a different story. But at the same time, to find those really good quality full-timers, that's a challenge as well, because take people, it takes time, right? Like you have to go through an interview process that there's like a month right there, training or basically
that's
adapting
what I'm wondering
them to your team.
Now that you mentioned, how does Rupert anticipate all that stuff or like hire for it?
You want to bring him back on the show? Let's bring him back on the show and talk to him.
Yeah, because it's not easy to hire people and then to qualify them, train them. That takes a lot of time, doesn't it?
That's what he was talking about. That's why he talked about doing that in the downtime, because then he's gone through all the hard stuff when things were quiet, that when the influx of work does come in, they are able to scale up. He obviously doesn't hire. He's obviously smart enough to not hire too many people at once. He probably does it like slowly with like one person at a time. I remember he was saying like on average they add like maybe 2 people a year. I'd have to look back at what it was in the episode. We'd have to take a look again. But he did like of all the production companies that I think we've interacted with, he's done it in a very smart way with how he's scaled it up in terms of people.
His team is big. Like there's like 30 people there.
And he's never really had to scale down from what I remember us talking about.
The other company I know that has like that many is Sasha's Indigo.
Yeah.
But it's like a mix of different businesses too.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He has a diversity. The thing that he does well is that he has a diversity in the business lines that he's in, right? He's not only doing photography.
You know what? You think so, but it's still part of the same. Like when you say diversity, I think completely different business. But his stuff is still all part of that. It's still all photography.
It's all part of marketing.
Yeah, but it's still marketing in the photography space, right? So he's got Indigo, Purple Tree.
But they also do branding and design work with August Media. They do weddings with Purple Tree. They do corporate and commercial content with
who's
Indigo.
That guy? Some of them in the okay. So let's use a video production example. I know a lot of people actually in the video space go like, if they want to diversify, they'll get the studio space or they'll start renting out gear or all three, right? I think that's actually a bad idea because you're still just part of the video space. You haven't diversified really. Diversification to me is like you add photography or something else entirely, right? Because
no, I think
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because I'll use photography as an example. Let's say something completely unrelated to that. Designing websites, okay? That's real diversification. Why? Because if something happens to one of the industries where for some reason there's a downturn, at least the other one is still in an upturn. You know what I mean? Versus, let's say you have a production company and you have a space you rent out for shoots and then also equipment. Well, if the video production industry is down, the other two are going to be down as well. So you haven't really diversified. Yeah. You still have all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, it's kind of like an illusion of diversification in a way because the difference, the thing that is diversified is who you're selling to, right? Because in studios, your studios and rental houses, you're selling to a lot of production houses, and that's the same customer essentially, right? But a different need. So that's where the diversification is kind of lost.
It's a subcategory of the same industry. That's not good. That's not diversification.
Yeah, diversification is to selling to different markets and different types of customers. I feel is the most effective way. If you're providing 4 or 5 different services, but you're still catering to the same clients, the potential to grow and also the potential to have a down season is just as high. It's almost like saying like you're looking for clients that need animation videos and live action videos. It's like you're still creating videos for the same clients.
It's still video content at the end of the day, right? Yeah, that's
exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like it's I know some people are doing it and good for them if it's going well. I'm just trying to say though, it's like if something goes bad in one, it's gonna go bad in the other two because they're all interconnected, right? The true way of doing it is to like literally diversifying something completely different because you're hedging your bets, right? That's true diversification.
Yeah, essentially it's a way to kind of help support one business with the other if something slows down. And that's kind of what we're also trying to do with Creatives Grab Coffee in a way as well. Is to
not really. It's still, if you look at it like that, it's still related to video production. So in a way,
yeah. But we're selling to different people. But here's now the difference. The difference is that you're selling to a different type of customer altogether, right? Whereas, and that's what I was trying to say.
The same customer, man. No, that's why right now.
What are you talking about? No.
It's the same
CGC,
thing,
Dario, the customers and the audience for Creatives Grab Coffee are video production company owners. That's mostly who we're talking to, or freelance people.
You really don't see it. If there's a bad time in the video production industry, for example, here we sell Patreon subscriptions. They'll be less likely to get it because they're not getting enough gigs to be able to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's not diversification.
I see what you mean.
Diversification is like what I'm trying to do now, trying to set up my own e-commerce shop. That's diversification. It's not related to video. It's completely different. That's diversification.
Yeah, so in terms of diversification of industry rather than
subletting one of the rooms in your condo, that's diversification. You're getting income from a different source completely. That's called diversification.
Yeah.
If you're in the same spot, I mean, it's still diversification. You're still exposed to the same risks that you would be in your main business. Yeah, you're in the same industry. That goes down, everything goes down, right?
Yeah. So anyway, as a business owner, you just have to think about what you want to also put your focus in, and if you can diversify in some way to kind of make sure things stay afloat, then go for it, right?
Yeah. And also, I still don't know if I've really explained my feelings this episode on what I'm going through, that stuff. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly. So I might not be explaining it the way I might have not figured out the way to understand it myself and explain it to other people. If anyone else is going through this or has gone through it and knows how to explain it better, let me know. But maybe by next episode I'll be able to explain it better, or in a couple episodes I'll have figured it out in a more
the next solo episode.
Figure out a way to communicate it better. But that's it. Again, I'm not talking down on the video production industry, anything like that. It's just from a business perspective. I guess my mindset has shifted a little bit. Again, I don't know. Maybe I'm not explaining it properly.
He wants safety and assurances.
I'm not trying to.
He wants, guys.
I'm not trying to.
Security, long-term security.
Again,
we all want that.
I'm not trying to. No, it's not even that. Again, I'm probably not explaining it well. That's the only thing. So if you guys are going what the hell is he talking about? I probably haven't explained it well. But if someone else knows what I'm talking about and knows how I should explain it, let me know.
Or maybe Dario still hasn't figured it out and he's just
maybe by the next time we re-record this episode. But anyways, yeah, that's it. I'll just stop talking now because I feel like I'm just rambling.
Yeah, we got Dario back to the rambling section.
Yeah. Anyways, okay.
Yeah.
This is future Dario and Kyrill clocking out. Now we can go back to wherever the episode was taken out. I don't know where you're gonna fit this in, Kyrill.
I'll figure it out. And back to our regular scheduled programming. If you're looking at it from just purely a financial perspective, people who are jumping into our industry are not doing it purely to make money, right? That's not the main driving force. That's more so something that they would like to have as a result of it, right? I mean, when I first jumped into this industry, I thought to myself originally, I don't think I'm going to make that much money in this industry. So if I can make it to the point where I actually live off of what I do here, then holy crap, that is great. So I
don't agree with that because when you jumped into it thinking that you could hop over to the other industry, which was films. That's what you didn't know the roads, right? You thought you could do it, make money, to then go into films. You didn't go into corporate because ever since you were a little child, you dreamed of making ads for a conglomerate business, right?
Yeah.
You didn't wake up at 5 years old and say, I want to make ads for McDonald's, right?
Yeah. Well, we adapted.
We all do it for money.
Money was.
Yeah. It's we get into, I think when you get into this industry, even if whatever, I don't know, you're I'm not doing it for the money, blah, blah, blah.
You have to think about the money, though. That's what
You are always thinking about the money because you come into it and then you realize, oh, wait a minute. The thing is, there's 3 different industries. There's film and TV, there's corporate, and then there's commercial, which is kind of in between film and TV. And I guess we'll throw in documentaries as part of film and TV, but they're kind of separate in a way. So when you get into the creative space, you're good producer, director, whatever. A lot of us started out as cinematographers. You get into this, and then you're what's the next step? Well, if you don't know, you start freelancing, and if you're freelancing, you're mostly working on corporate projects, right? So eventually you get to the point where you get good at it, and you're you know what? I got to live money's good. A lot of us just stick into corporate because of that, right? Until we find out, hey, wait a minute, if I went into film and TV, I would have had to go through the union. That would have been a pain in the ass, and then I got to work long ass days and basically
not
have a family. And if you do, we'd probably divorce because the hours are horrible. Okay, so screw it. I'll stick with corporate. You do weddings on the side. You get really good. You don't have to do weddings on the side. You just stick with corporate, right? That's really how we all, or you kind of get really good at corporate. You make the jump into commercial work. Now you're working with different directors and you're doing commercial. Maybe you make that transition of TV or film at some point. But it's like we all fell into this because it just happened to be the zone where we could make money and do creative stuff. Right? Is that not what happened? Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. Like, it's not like we woke up and said we got into this out of passion. We found out that we're good at it and we made it a passion for ourselves, I would say. I think very few woke up and said, I want to make ads for, Deloitte. That's my life goal. That's not really a life goal for a lot of us, right? Especially if you're on the creative side, you're like, I want to make movies. I want to do TV shows. And then you kind of realize, wait a minute, that's a whole different world. And you get into this. You get stuck here, you're like, I like it. Why not? I mean, we like corporate now. Like, I personally really like it. If I was to choose, I would stick with this even.
Yeah. I mean, look, honestly, you will always remember the first bit of money you make off of a video that you create, especially when it was originally not believed that you can actually do that. And yeah, like I remember the first project I got that paid me that's like $500 for a video. I was like back then, I mean, like that's still, and actually even today, like still a lot of money. It's like, oh my God, this is actually possible. And then you kind of start following that and seeing where the industry goes. And like you said, a lot of the time, the biggest market for making money through video production is in the corporate world right now.
But see, what you just said right now is you followed the money, Kyrill, because you got paid for a corporate project. If you're really passionate about video on like the stories, the filmic, the film, like if you wanted to go into films originally, even if you got paid for corporate, you would have found your way to films.
Well, because think about it like this.
You followed the money. You went into corporate because the money was there.
Well, here's the other thing. You also want to make sure you're also financially stable. So there's like this balancing act that a lot of people have to figure out. It's like, look, you if you're going to get into this industry, you also want to figure out a way to actually live off of it, right? You can't do the passion work if you're not making money in one way or another. Like anyone who's not doing video production, or like people who want to go into films and TV and all that stuff, but are only focusing on that, they still have to put a roof over their head. You
can still make money in film and TV. I don't see any of them on the street with beggars cups. They're making it work.
Yeah, but I'm talking about for people jumping into it. Not everyone can do it right out the gate, right? Especially when it's
why not? There's a ton of them. No, you just apply for the union, and then you got to put up with the bad hours. But there's a ton of them working that scene, Kyrill. We went into corporate because like the work-life balance was a lot better and the money was good for us to live with, basically. That's the real reason.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing here.
Just trying to clarify, because it sounded like no, like, because even for film and TV, you can still make good money on it. It's just a completely different path, is all I'm trying to say. But most of us started trying to get into that, and then we realized what a different road it was. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you realize the different path, the different paths that there are, and you just have to make a decision on where you want to go. And if you realize at some point you want to make some changes, like, then make changes and do what you need to. But anyways, so that was basically our the gist of everything that we talked about for an entire hour that we condensed into 10 minutes right now. The next thing we're gonna just quickly go over is, where was this? So one of the next directions for the show that we've already kind of touched upon is expanding further beyond where we are now. We've hit already 3 of the states in the US, and our next goal is to hit at least one guest, or get one guest onto the show from every single state in the US. And I feel like that is going to give a very interesting picture of what the industry is like overall in the States, where we can kind of compare and see what it's like from one versus the other. And I feel like that would be interesting for anyone who's listening, because I don't know any other show or program that has done something like that, which is basically talk to people from every single state in the US, or let alone even in Canada, every single province, right? Because we've done that.
We've done most of the provinces. We haven't done, I think, a couple we haven't done
some of the territories and in the north.
Newfoundland. Well, territory is not a province, so they want to come on the show. They got to be, if they want to become, they got to be a province to qualify.
Trying to find like the bigger leads, but yeah.
I think we actually did look on that previous take to see if there was anyone, and what was that territory we were looking at? None of it, and there was none of them up there.
Yeah, well, that's not where the market is. When you think about it, a lot of people go to a lot of these more remote parts of the world. Well,
I don't think anyone goes there. I think they haven't been going there for.
No, I've known some creators that have gone to Nunavut to film some projects here and there. So my point is,
to film, but not to. It's not like they stay there and start.
That's
their
what
own
I
company.
mean. That's what I mean. They're not
big
people
difference.
that stay there. Yeah, people. That's what I mean.
Not like the market is booming.
Yeah, it's only for very specific specific types of projects. But yeah, so that's essentially it, and that's also why we need the support, so we can try to get through the 50 states as fast as possible and try to get it done at least one a week. So with 50 states, or I guess 47 are left now, technically speaking, that would be, yeah, within a year, essentially, that's 47 states right there.
Yeah, we'll get through it in 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically it for the next portion. One other thing we want to kind of ask our guests is, what are like some other things that you would like to see on the show in terms of topics discussed, production companies, or, well, I guess this is something that goes mostly for our Patreon users at this point, which is like, what would you like to see on the show? What would you like us to kind of talk about? Where would you be curious about us reaching out to, as Dario mentioned, maybe Paris, France, or maybe in Germany, or like...
we forgot to mention another thing too. You get to do... Well, we mentioned that because if you've listened to the first couple of minutes, you heard it over there. But we'll be doing live call-ins as well at some point.
Yeah, at least we'll try to do that.
Patreon guests. Yeah, we'll try to do that. I mean, we're not going to cater to the Patreon. It's like, look, it's going to happen on this day at this time. If you want, tune in and whatever. So you get to see the show live, and then you can also chime in and ask some questions too, because Riverside allows that, which is a really cool feature. That's going to be really awesome once the Patreon numbers start going up.
I think another good thing would be maybe even doing some Q&As with us on the show on Patreon as well. You never know. Like, there could be like some discussions that come through it, and like, you know what? Maybe we could even do an episode like that. Like, say we get a good amount of Patreon users eventually, and then we can basically do a live show for them, and then they could be like, what are your thoughts on this topic or something like that, and then you and I can basically
very optimistic of the number of listeners.
Look, all it takes is like 5 Patreon users, you know, that are I want to get 100 super fans. We don't need 100,000 casual fans here and there. I mean, don't get me wrong, that would also be nice, but
I would like that.
We would love to have like people that are really involved and really passionate. Like think about it. Like what are some things that you're interested in, that you're like diehard passionate about? Like how Dario is with his Yeezys. He loves that stuff, you know? Like that kind of level of or me with my hats. That kind of level of passion essentially is what we're looking for with our audience. But yeah, and if there are other ideas in terms of what you might think is valuable for you as a listener, let us know. Comment below.
The idea better not be lower the price. Look, we got to pay for this show, okay? Like, I know we don't have the numbers that we need for listeners, so if we had like 10 times the amount of listeners, then I would have lowered the price. But hey, you're getting more value out of this than Disney Plus, so cancel your Disney Plus. You've already watched all the Star Wars shows. Enough with the Star Wars, okay? You don't need to watch another one of those garbage shows. Turn your brain into mush. No one cares about Ahsoka.
If you've learned something on the show or from any of our discussions with our guests that have helped you improve your business in some way, or even
send us an interact at the following email
at the following Patreon at creativesgrabcoffee.com for 25.
Buy us a coffee at least. God damn it.
Yeah,
something.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that is. Except we shouldn't start accepting payments of coffee only. You know, then eventually that's how we're gonna start getting payments.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Send us something. You made money off this show. Send me something. A little something. You know, deuce me a little. Like, give me something. A little tenner here or there. Like something.
A little tenner.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Gotta have a little fun on this.
Yeah. And for those of you who are tuning in and are new to the show, there have been a lot of very interesting topics that we've kind of covered over the last little while. And even like the one cool thing about what we do at the show is that we're learning talking with these guests, because we don't know what the industry like is in these other parts of the world. We don't know what their story is or their experiences. Like the thing we've learned with this show is that every single guest that has come onto the show, none of them have had the same path, essentially. There's always been some variances or like differences in how they get into the industry, why they get into the industry, how they've grown, why they've grown. And we've talked about a lot of pretty interesting things. And I remember one of my favorite discussions that we had just on our most recent one with Zach from Mileshko was the whole retainer model bit, because that's something a lot of creatives in our industry talk about wanting, is finding more retainer clients. But what we came to the realization is that what we want is more bookings, not retainers, essentially.
I love how he said that if you were doing that, you'd basically be losing out on the inflation cost.
Yeah, that was a big realization.
Which, you know what, in today's world is a very big problem, because inflation reported was like what? Like I'm pretty sure
7-8%.
Listen. Now, right now, we're down to 4 here in Canada now, but I'm telling you right now, those numbers are fake. It's got to be at least 10%.
It's got to be more, yeah.
It's got to be way more. I know how they pick and choose, right?
Yeah.
So
when inflation was 2%, it wasn't a big deal. when it's 10%.
No one brought that up. It's like, okay, but even if, in normal times, it's supposed to be 2%, right? So whatever you're charging, you got to factor that into the cost, right? So I guess how I would have pitched it to the client is like, I would have probably said dependent on monthly inflation. So,
but here's the
monthly inflation needs to be factored in, because if you're being paid on a monthly basis, you got to factor in the inflation, right? So, if it's $100, then it's $102.
But you here's the thing though, is that with the inflation, when you're doing retainer models, you're also giving a kind of discount a little bit, on that much work. So you're losing even more as a result, because that's what a lot of companies do when they're looking for retainer models, is like, we need more. Well, that's how the value is to get them locked into a contract, is essentially provide some kind of overall discount and services, that helps them swallow that pill necessarily, right?
You know what,
so
though?
Essentially,
it's like, why offer the discount? Because if they're renting, I remember Adam was talking about it's worked with him with clients that he already has a good relationship with, which means that he's been doing work with them for a couple of years. It's like, at that point, it's already kind of guaranteed. Why offer the discount?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of like, it's not like the retainer, the traditional retainer model is not necessarily applicable that well towards the video production world. And yeah, essentially what we're trying to do is just get more bookings, like more consistent bookings, rather than retainer.
That's how I would have pitched it. Now that I think about it, I would have said it's like you will be guaranteed that will be available for the we'll be guaranteed for your project. You'll have us for sure. You don't really need to do the discount to lure them in. You could just say, we might be busy, right? So this guarantees our availability. I would still charge them the inflation on it, though. I think now it's probably easier to sell that, too. It's like, okay, if you're hiring us for the full year, it'll cost this much plus inflation of 2%, because that's supposed to be normal anyways. And you just add that on top.
Yeah. But, yeah, that was just like a little funny tidbit from one of the past episodes that we had. Actually, this was one thing that I wanted to mention, is that one thing that Stuart from Chuck Media talked about, and this kind of goes back to the idea where you might sometimes fall out of love with your business if you find yourself doing a lot of the same kind of corporate work and things like that. Maybe what you need to do is also take on an annual passion project that you do that you can look forward to every year and get excited about. So that's one thing that he's done to kind of circumvent that aspect of, feeling in like a little bit of a rut with your business, is to do something that you normally wouldn't do. So that's something a lot of people should consider as well.
Getting out of a rut, though, is different, isn't it?
Well, maybe not getting out of the rut is maybe not the right way I would say it. Is I don't know, just to kind of like stir up the creative juices a little bit more.
Yeah, I think for him, it was more stir up creative juices, but I think it's different if you're coming to like a more existential situation, right?
Yeah. Another thing we also talked about on our episode with Thomas from Offbeat Films was you need to realize that you're going to outgrow your clients eventually. You're never going to stick with the same clients from the very beginning up until now, because you grow as a business, they grow as clients, needs change, marketing goals change. Don't take it personally if either they move on, and they won't take it personally if you also outgrow them, right? Because when you're starting out in a business, you're also starting out with a certain price point, right? Like when we started doing videos, Dario, we were charging what, like 150 a video, 500 a video. And that's,
so I guess by outgrowing, you're really just saying you become too expensive for your clients.
That's one of the main ways. That was one thing I remember we talked about on that episode.
What was the other one?
Well, that was just one of them, is all I'm mentioning.
Okay, outgrowing, just basically, yeah, like, well, yeah, obviously, Kyrill, like we got business, we got bills to pay. Like if client can't pay, you got to move on.
That's my point. And like, and I already mentioned it as well, is that essentially different goals and needs change over time.
It sounded
right?
like creatively, when you were saying it sounded like creatively you might outgrow the client. I think it's just more so financially. When you're running a business in the corporate space, who cares as long as they can pay, right?
Well, that, but also, there's that. And also from their end, it's also their goals change as well. So like if they originally brought you in to do monthly videos, right? Maybe they realize after 2-3 years, oh, we don't need to do these monthly videos anymore. So then they also move on to doing something else. So there's always going to be an influx of change with the clients that come through the front door. And like even us, like I'd say our current client roster is fairly new, like from probably 2 years ago.
Yeah, because their pricing structure. Yeah, because their pricing structure changed. That's it.
Exactly. So, like, don't feel bad if things change. Is all I'm saying as well. But
if you're feeling bad, you're in the wrong business, or you should give the reins to the more business side-minded person on your team. Like, we're running businesses here. Like, we got no time for emotional whatever. Your client doesn't care either. Like, they're just a cog in a wheel, anyways, right? They got a budget to work with, and they can only sell you so much to upper management anyways, right? There's no emotions involved in this. It's just business. Like, you're just doing transactions, really.
Yeah. But anyways, those are just a couple of little interesting tidbits that we talked about over the last few episodes. And if you're really curious to see what else we talked about, check out the previous episodes. We got hours and hours and hours of good content for you to check out.
Kyrill, you wanted to do like a whole summary of each of the last 10 episodes?
No, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do a summary of each one. I just wanted to pull like a little, a couple interesting tidbits like that from past episodes. Like for example, the retainer idea. Like that was like a very funny realization
that one I liked.
That we had talked about.
Yeah, because I liked how we saw the two perspectives. Like Adam was really for it, or when it worked, and then when we got Zach's perspective on it, on the inflation part, I'm like, oh my god, that's so true. I never even thought about that. And no one mentioned that.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing is when we interview some guests, we end up talking about similar topics, but our guests have one aspect of it, one perspective, and then the other one has another perspective. And it's just interesting to draw these comparisons, because these are experiences from people that have gone through this that we haven't. And it's just it's just interesting to see that unfold and just kind of talk about. But yeah, like this and a lot of other interesting topics along the way. You know, we got another 50 episodes coming. By the time we hit episode 100, we will have hit all of the US. So here's to that.
I personally wanted to hit that number close to now, but
I would have liked to as well, but it's not easy. And this is why it costs money to do this. It costs money to do this.
Honestly.
And here's the other thing. We're also running the actual video production business side, right? We could be focusing on a video. We would be like editing or working on an episode. It's like, oh, we're working. Also, 2 client projects have come through the door that we have to focus on getting done first. That's going to take precedent, right? So with a little bit of funding, at least it'll help us, and at the very least hiring even some editors to actually help produce the content if we're busy with other things going on, right? There's lots to come through, and honestly,
we would still be doing this show even if we didn't have support. Yeah. It's just the episodes are just gonna trickle out a lot slower. But if you guys are getting a lot of value out of this, help support the show. I know times are tough, less projects coming in, but again, cancel Disney Plus.
yeah, cancel one of those subscription models that you don't need. Those ones are just giving you some basic, very, very bare bones basic entertainment, whereas this is we're bringing
spreading
people
knowledge
to you. Spreading, yeah, that's it. Yeah, CGC is all about spreading the knowledge. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so anyways, I think that pretty much covered everything already. This is what a more condensed version of those 3-hour first takes that we did. They were just pure ranting episodes.
In all fairness, Kyrill, there was a lot to rant about. It's just our listeners are also in different countries, and they didn't really need to know a lot of the ranting.
They don't need to care. They don't here. Look, we get it. You guys are all here to learn new things from our guests and from us.
Not here.
You're not here to care about our problems. We're not here to care about our problems.
and we're not here to and vice versa. But anyways, yeah. Look, we're trying to pump out the show more often. Expect a lot more episodes. If they come out pretty often and we don't have that many Patreon users, then someone please send Kyrill some coffee money or something, because that means he's editing a lot. Yeah, God knows I ain't touching these. I'm dealing with the outreach. Actually, I got 2 calls with people from Boston coming up today, so I better get to those guys.
Yeah, our next our episode 51 will be our next guest from the States, from Boston. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for more. We're excited.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. And that's the next thing. We're gonna get some CGC mugs. All right. So as with every Patreon user, you might get one of these right in the mail if you sign up. So
my God, you know what Kyrill did for us back in the couple of years back? He ordered mugs. I don't know why this guy ordered like 100 of them.
No, I ordered 75 because that was the minimum.
75.
You can't do less.
I still have 70 sitting in my garage in a big box. I don't even know what to do with them. I can't even give them away. No one will take them.
You have 40. What do you mean no one will take them?
No one will take them. I got 40 mugs in there.
Why would you say no one will take them? We just haven't given them out to people. There's a difference. You're making it sound like nobody wants our mugs.
Hey, listen, if they keep raising those interest rate hikes, then I definitely won't be giving them out to anyone.
Yeah, because these are actually really good quality mugs.
They're actually really good. I will say they're actually really high quality mugs.
Yeah. When you start
I've abused them to hell and high water, and they're just scratched up a bit, but the logo is still clear. Yeah, they're really high.
Here, let me get this in the center of the frame.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like I've scratched mine up. They're really good mugs. I haven't broken a single one yet either.
Yeah. Oh, I've accidentally broken one.
How'd you break
it? It's been dropped. It happens.
How did you drop it?
I don't remember. This happened during the pandemic. Like, why are you trying to ask me questions like this?
How depressed were you? You drop a mug? How do you drop a mug? I've never even heard of that. Like, who drops a mug?
You know how many movies there are of people dropping mugs and everything? It's such
but that's done for cinematic effect, and then they do
maybe
the slow-mo.
That's what I was trying to do.
They do the slow-mo of it shattering into 50 million pieces. Wait, just out of curiosity, how many pieces did it break into? Like just 2 or like a million?
It was like it was just the handle fell off, and that was
just the handle, right? Yeah, so
you
could still technically use it, right?
I was still able to technically use it. I was just like, I just didn't want to have that chip. But yeah, like it's honestly, it had like maybe like a little chip on one other side. But yeah, these are good quality mugs. So we'll get some CGC ones with maybe like some kind of like Patreon supporter.
We should ask that company to sponsor us then.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Now we have an idea for
sponsor numero tres. We already have another one that Kyrill's going to go film next week. And you'll see this company in episode 51 and maybe this other one in episode 52.
Yeah. So anyways, thanks guys for tuning in, and thanks for everyone who's been supporting the show from the very beginning. You know, we know a couple super fans who've been around since the beginning, and we look forward to the next batch.
Yep. All right. See you guys. Thank you for listening.
Take care. Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Creatives Grab Coffee. Please make sure to follow and engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app.
If you enjoyed this content and want to hear more, you can get the whole experience on our Patreon at patreon.com/creativesgrabcoffee or click on the link in the description.
You'll get access to full uncut episodes, all reels and highlights at episode release, live shows and call-ins, ability to request cities and guests, as well as updates and BTS content.
Creatives Grab Coffee is created by Lapse Productions, a video production company based in Toronto, Canada.
Creatives Grab Coffee is also sponsored by... Do you have a shoot in Toronto? Do you need crew or a strong production partner to help you with your project? Lapse Productions is one of the top production companies in Toronto and your go-to video partner.
With our strong creative skills and extensive network, we can help you achieve your goal. Lapse Productions is able to offer you production services, white label services, or finder fees for project handoffs.
Reach out to us on our website at lapseproductions.com to learn more.
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group band packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.